It's time for Black and White, a show that wants to bring all of us together talking again. It's time to hear from people who only want to deal with facts. It's time for you to re-engage in America. It's time for Dan and Daryl. Welcome back to Black and White, and joining us today, and this is how she is called, Barbara from Harlem. And we're going to find out why. We're going to talk to her about some of the issues that are concerning him. One of them concerning her. One of them is the Jussie Smollett case in Chicago. So let's get started. Barbara, welcome to Black and White.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. Black and White is a program that's designed to increase the civility of communications between the races in the United States.
Okay.
We have a few simple rules. Not that you'll have a problem with it, but I always like to remind the audience: whatever we talk about, whoever we talk about, the person we're talking with has a requirement that they have to be civil, they have to be respectful, cannot use any racial slurs, and cannot morally attack any other person. They can share whatever they want as far as ideas, but we're having a civil conversation. In 10 months, every week, 3 times a week, we've never had to get rid of anybody. And we suspect that maybe the people who want to disrupt the show by not complying are not applying, because we've told everybody, if you start down that path, you won't be on it very long because we'll cut you off. So again, that was for our listeners, not necessarily for you. So let's spend a few minutes talking about Barbara's story. Where did you come from?
Well, I was born in the Bronx, but I was raised at 1831 Amsterdam Avenue, right in the heart of Harlem. That's where I get my name from, Barbara from Harlem, because I know Harlem, I love Harlem, and what I see now going on in my community, I'm not happy with. I see too much divisiveness, and that's why this recent case with Jussie was so important, because the jury did what they should have done with the evidence that was presented to them. I am sick and tired of all of this. We're supposed to be so divided, so separate. We are all Americans. And I wasn't raised that way, to look at people because of the color of their skin. I'm in line with what Dr. King says. The content of the character is more important than the color of one's skin. I went to school at PS 186 elementary school, and we were Italians, they were Jewish people, Hispanics, and we all came together as Americans. I was not raised to single people out because they looked a little different from me. We celebrated Polish people, German people. That's how I was raised, and that's how I believe God wants us to conduct ourselves.
So, living that life experience,
yes.
What caused it to change?
What caused it to change? Well, we have people out there, I want to be respectful, but call themselves pastors, men of God, and they promote, they live off, and they make money off of racial division. One I call Sharp Tongue, the other one I call Slick Jackson.
And, are we talking about Sharpton and Jesse Jackson?
Yeah, I didn't say it, you did.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Yes. Why were you reluctant to use their names?
Well, I want to be respectful, but it's hard. I'm from New York, so it's very hard. I'm just playing. These are some of the reasons why we have the division in our communities. Also, there's Charlie Rango. He's not in politics anymore, but I live in his district, the district he used to have. I used to be a member of his Democratic club right there on Lenox Avenue. And I know the rhetoric that was being handed out to the people. I know that they were being taught. They were being taught to hate people because of the color of their skin. They were taught to hate people because their ancestors may have had slaves. I heard it firsthand. I even had to, as a member of that club, attend a church. And the speaker was Hillary Clinton for the morning service. After she finished speaking, the pastor of this church on 132nd Street got up and said that Hillary Clinton was the Moses for Black people. So what is that promoting but hatred? What is that promoting but divisiveness? And you see, I realized what they were doing was making Black people into victims. And that's destroyed practically our communities and destroyed a lot of our families. They need victims for their platform. And Black people, because of the history of slavery, were the people that they chose to focus on, and it has worked.
But Barbara, what I don't understand, and
Blame white people for every failure.
Well, what I don't understand is,
yes,
as you explained earlier, the culture and the history of the Black race in this country before the 1960s was very productive.
Very productive.
So what happened to the people in the pews that they bought the story and abandoned the past?
Well, you know, when you have a lot of anger, resentment, abandonment, you're going to blame someone. You know, we have over 73% of Black children born without a father in the home.
But
so a lot of Black children are growing up, they're not validated, they're not affirmed, they don't even know who they are. I've seen birth certificates where it says father, there's a blank.
Well, the thing that I have looked at many times is that in New York City, the number of abortions on Black women are greater than the live birth numbers of Black women in Harlem.
Yes.
Why?
Because they've convinced Black women that it's just a blob, it's not a person, and it's taken very lightly. Yes, you're absolutely right. We have more abortions of Black babies than we have live births. You're absolutely correct about that.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I went to, my daughter encouraged me to go to college and get a degree back in 2006, I think it was. And to hear young women boast about abortion as if it was birth control. They have convinced them that you're carrying nothing. But nothing from nothing would leave nothing. How do babies come? How do people come to be if you're creating nothing? So, you know, I could only talk with some of them because they were boasting about 3 and 4 abortions and thought it was light stuff, but it'll come to them one day. Mm-hmm. But the media and those who support abortion have convinced them that it's just a blob of nothingness.
How much of the convincing them, Barbara, goes to your previous point of how many babies are born without fathers?
We do what we can. We ran an agency where we focused on not just school-age children, but also the mothers, to try to teach these mothers and those who will soon be mothers how to set goals, how to understand that you are a valuable person, even if you weren't validated by your parents or your father, whomever. And we did that for over 20 years, my sons and I in particular, but my daughters helped me also with this agency we started, and right there in the heart of Harlem. And some of them I even have contact with even at this stage of life. And, you know, they're well grown. Some of them are married. And one of the young ladies, she even went to Atlanta and she was living with my other daughter. She's a real estate agent and she came through our program, and her mother came through our program, and her sister came through our program. So, you know, people have to take time with these women that have been abandoned, have unresolved anger, have to take time and teach them another way of life. You know, my agency used to get free birth control, and I would just give it out. So we have to, stop all of these abortions and killings of these babies, because a lot of these women, after they get these abortions, they turn to drugs, they turn to an alternative lifestyle because, their conscience is hurting them.
Right, right.
Yes.
There's
It's a problem, big
yes,
problem.
there's an issue of the role of the Democratic Party
Right.
in eugenics.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and yet I've read document after document, book after book about how the Democrats decided to set up the clinics in the black neighborhoods predominantly because
Yes.
of eugenics, wanting to get rid of the black race.
Yes.
But that was Democrats that did that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
again, it's a puzzlement.
Yes.
It's a puzzlement for me, Barbara. How the blacks, if they study the history of
They
how
don't.
that's the problem. They don't study.
They don't. I have talked to so many black people, and I said, you voted for whomever they voted for. I said, do you know that they support killing babies? Oh, I didn't know that. We're so busy with those little gadgets. We don't even study the history of this party that has a history of racism from their inception.
Right. And it's the oldest political party in the world.
Yes, it is.
The Democratic Party.
They don't even know that what the Republicans were formed. I think the Republican Party was formed in like 1870 to stop the spread of slavery and to bring the country together. And a lot of people don't even know that.
Yeah. Is it because we don't teach history in the schools anymore? Or
that is correct.
Or we don't really teach black history in the school anymore?
We don't. If we just taught even history, the truth of history, I think that some of this stuff would be exposed. And then the thing about it, we don't have anybody at home because, some of the mothers are working who've been abandoned with these children, and they don't have a father. So the mother has to be whatever she can be to the children that she has. And nobody is taking the time to teach them the history. It's not being taught in school. In some of these schools, as I said, I just went to college and graduated 2006 or whatever. That wasn't an institution of higher learning. It was an institution of intense propaganda. Intense propaganda. That's what it was.
Okay, Barbara, we have to take a commercial break, but
Okay.
we'll be right back with Barbara from Harlem, continuing the discussion, and we're going to turn to Jessie Smollett and talk to her about that.
The vaccine companies tell us their products will be 95% effective. How do you know if you're in the 95 or the 5% group? Congressman Steve Lynch, who had the 2-shot regimen of a vaccine, just tested positive. You may not know which group you're in, but in either case, you need to have the strongest immune system possible. You need to get CV Acute for short-term protection and CV Defense for long-term support for a healthy immune system. Take charge of your health care. Go to empoweryourself.info to order these important supplements.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Barbara from Harlem. Yes, that's what she likes to be called, Barbara from Harlem.
Yes.
And we've been talking about what's been going on in the Black community and Black history and why the Blacks are doing certain things. And she wanted to make sure that we spent some time on talking about Jesse and his case in Chicago. So tell us about what your thoughts are.
Well, my thoughts are, let justice reign, and it did. I am so proud of those who sat on that jury because it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy job to look at the facts, gather the evidence, and come out with convicting him of 5 of the 6 charges he was charged with. It was not easy, just like it, so we have to salute our judicial system. We're not perfect, but we're pretty darn good, and they were very brave. Because our jurors now to decide a case, if The left and the media wants certain results be produced. They intimidate them, they threaten them, just like they did with the Kyle Rittenhouse. They, are known to do that. So for them to convict him, which he deserved it, because if you're trying to make Trump supporters look like they're nuts and come up with something as crazy as he did, like somebody's trying to lynch you and all of this, you deserve to be convicted. Now let's see what time he has to spend in prison and what's going to happen from this point. But I am elated.
Well, I agree with you on the account of both cases.
Yes.
Where the jury was clearly trying to be intimidated by the news media, by the people outside protesting, but they stood up to the table and did their decision.
They did.
Based on the evidence, which says,
yes,
at least for now, in most cases, the American jury system seems to still want to work.
Thank God.
And, yes, thank God. I tried, and I still have difficulty, Barbara. I don't understand. I mean, I've heard all the reasons why he did what he did, but I don't understand at all what he was trying to achieve. You have any insight in that for me?
Just ugliness. Unfortunately, the left, they are in such darkness. They have dark hearts and dark minds. Their ideology is just an ideology of darkness. You can't comprehend it. You can't wrap your mind about it because you're not evil. These people are evil. These people are diabolical. These people are demonically controlled. I call them godless heathens because they don't believe in God, and they have vile imaginations. That was so insane. But he thought it would work, and it backfired, and I'm so happy.
But let me just ask you one question about what you just said. Did it backfire, or did the truth win?
Well, I think it's a little of both. It backfired because it exposed how insane they are. And the truth did win out because they got the evidence, just like with George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin, the evidence. And this jury looked at all of the evidence that was presented and came out with something that was logical, and it let truth reign. What this man did was so bizarre. What he did was so unconscionable that he deserved to be found guilty. So I think it's a mixture of both.
Okay. So you think that, and there didn't seem to be, from what I could tell, and perhaps the mainstream media didn't report it because the verdict was guilty. But yes, I didn't see in Chicago any significant protest against the decision of the jury. Did you?
No, I didn't. I'll be honest with you. Even if there was one, I wouldn't want to see it because it's nullified. It means nothing. For him to get the support of people who we all know, that was supposed to be intimidation enough, and that was supposed to sway the jury to ignore the truth and find him not guilty. But it reversed. They found him guilty because he is guilty.
Right. So when you think about the fact that he was guilty,
yes,
and initially when the supposed attack took place, the mainstream media was very supportive of him.
Yes.
But on the other hand, in the Wisconsin case where Kyle was defending himself, the left had him crucified before he even went to trial.
That's how they work.
And when the jury of his peers acquitted him, first of all, I didn't see any of the people like the vice president or the president who spoke out, say anything about the rule of law and how it worked, but they basically criticized him before the trial took place. And I think, I'm not an attorney, but I think there could be, Joe Biden wasn't president at the time.
Yes.
And he wasn't vice president at the time. He was a private citizen. I suspect he has left himself open to libel suits. Now, I understand you can't do that while he's a sitting president, but they can certainly
Okay.
go after him afterwards. But it seems to me, and it's just an observation, I don't know how much credibility it has, but it seems to me that justice has made a positive turn,
Yes.
and
Yes.
2 out of 2 big high-profile cases didn't go the way the Democrats wanted it to go, no matter how much they tried to influence.
Yes.
And so that means, does that mean, Barbara, that people have to take more control by standing up and not taking a plea, but fight for their rights?
Amen. That's just what it means. It means we, the people, have to really stand tall, stand straight, and stand firm. That's why I salute the juries that have been delivering what the media hates. They hate it when the evidence shows the guilt or the innocence. If it's not their person that they're supporting, they hate the verdict. In other words, you know what I mean. In
Yeah.
other words, they were pushing for Jussie to be acquitted, and they would have been, all the newspapers would have been given away free to celebrate that. But it didn't go their way. And they're very quiet. You know, I'm so glad that we had a president that called the news media what it is, fake news. If
Yes.
it doesn't go their way, they're very quiet until they figure out another scheme.
They didn't have a fallback position on Jussie, did they?
No, they did not. No, they did
Kyle,
not.
they didn't have a fallback position on.
You're right. You're right. You know, I was glad when Trump said that, because I used to work for a newspaper, New York newspaper. I worked for 2 in the 70s. And I knew they were lying when you got the paper in the morning. And I've never bought paper since then. So I'm glad that Trump came out and finally called it what it is, fake news.
Thanks for joining us today on Black and White. If you missed any of this terrific interview, you can hear it and many more by going to blacksandwhites.us, click on the archive section. Keep yourself well informed, and come back soon. If you are interested in reaching our vast Black and White Network audience with your products or services, then contact Hollis Media Group at 1-855-673-8635. That's 1-855-673-8635 for more information on this great opportunity.